Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
I hope people joining us today. Where we're talking about
We're talking about Stevie.
let's talk about autism
Yeah,
and the
autism.
challenge of raising a child.
As it
And
relates to DJ Stevie, we want to thank DJ Stevie because this is his channel.
yeah,
To the left of me is the production manager, Yelem. Please say hi, Yelem.
hi, everybody.
And I, as people know, am Stevie's wingman.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us and for participating. Our first Let's Talk Autism session. We appreciate for tuning in and really we'll share our journey raising a child under the spectrum, right? If you're a new parent who just find out that your child is diagnosed, or a parent that has been in this journey for a long time, you can share his experiences, and we'll share while we're sharing our experience. Please make sure you write a comment and sorry, uh, please share your comment and your your idea and support. Thank you.
Yeah, so we will be going over uh, what Stevie was like as a child. We'll talk about what we did to support Stevie. Uh, we'll talk about the challenges that Stevie had and will continue has now and will continue to have in the future, having autism. And then finally, we'll talk about the evolution of what you see and hear every week, the evolution of DJ Stevie. So please, as Yalem said, if you wish to type in a comment, we will respond to that. And we look forward to our discussion, our time with you, and we're honored and blessed to be with you.
All right. So what's the first thing we'd like to talk about? Derek will start really talking about Stevie. What is he like beside autism? What is he like as a child, right? A boy. What strengths he have and all that stuff.
Yeah, well, Stevie was born May 23rd, 2002, on a Thursday at about 10 minutes after 10 in the evening. I wanted to watch no, I'm kidding. I wanted, the Maple Leafs were in the playoffs. And anyway, the birth of Stevie, how did that go?
Well, it was a normal birth, really. I mean, he came in a bit early. That's he was expected because I was going through some health issue. Well, that's why they had to induce me, and just he came in 2 weeks earlier. But that didn't really affect the way he had. Like he walked okay. I mean, the milestone, everything that you expected, like at the age of one. So
I must interject, and Yalem will say it's not true, but okay, so picture this. It's Thursday morning, May 23rd, 2002. Being that, I'm an avid runner, I was coaching a 4x100 team, track and field. So I said to the other coaches, when I do this, I need to go. So my cell phone rang, and Yalem said, I'm going to have the baby. And so she said, can you go pick up, clothes and everything, the care bag at our apartment, and pick up some injera? And
I
so
never say that, but okay.
she, to this day, says that she never said to pick up injera.
No, well,
But,
why would I do that at the hospital?
but
I
she did.
mean,
Anyway, um, so yeah, no, my mom, late mother, was there, and my sister and my uncle and aunt came after. So his birth went fairly well, um, and he's really, as a newborn infant, he was very active. He had some problems, like any infant does, sleeping at times, didn't he? Or
you have difficulty sleeping. Now going back, there was some signs because he's extremely attached. It means he wants to be picked up all the time, hugged, and he doesn't want to um, be like independent. He wants to be hugged, and that's the sensory part, I guess. That's what that I'm noticing now. I mean, now if I go back, there was a lot of signs that that was there. It was just it didn't show up. His autism, I guess, he's until the age of like 3 or 4 when we put him into um, daycare or like a day program, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Elam's brother and his family came from Montreal this weekend. Or weekend, we were living in Richmond Hill, city north of Toronto, and this is before we moved, obviously, to Ethiopia. And Yalem was quite distraught because Stevie was told, or Yalem picked up Stevie, and the psychologist had given Yalem her business card saying that, and then the word autism, I think, first came to our um, uh, doorstep, if you will, at that time.
It was a day
It was daycare.
well, it's not a daycare, but it's a drop-in center.
The drop-in, right?
It's like a morning drop-in.
Yeah.
And she mentioned, now I thank her because if it wasn't for her, that was a very good teacher who actually not even a school, but it was a drop-in center, who noticed that some of Stevie, the way he plays, the way he interacts with other kids, the way he sensitivity to noise as at that age, 3, I would say 2.5 and 3, holding his ears. He's trying to protect himself from the noise in the classroom. It could be the noise from the kids and noise from many things. So that's what the first, well, although we noticed that his speeches were delayed for his age, we didn't notice that. We thought like it's just a speech delay. But what we noticed is, what after she mentioned that, we kind of like, she mentioned the word autism. Have you ever heard autism? I said, no. And she said, Stevie might have it. And she's like, what do you mean? I thought she's picking up on him because he's the only mixed kid in the classroom. But she did us a favor because, right? And
yeah, and then we noticed signs because it was the same brother, and he lives in Montreal, so we would often go there during the holidays. And they would be having birthday parties for Stevie's cousin in September, and Stevie was crawling under the table and did not want to have any association with any other
kid,
children, yeah. Right? And I think his cousins and the other children there were playing games, and they tried, right? So there was that. And then there was, the big sign was our trip to Canada's Wonderland, an amusement park, and he had what we consider his first major meltdown. So when all of that is said and done, as Yalem said, that psychologist or teacher at the drop-in center, little did we know, but she did us a huge favor.
Yeah.
And he was tested. He had a full battery assessment at the Markham Stouffville Hospital, and that took a while. And so we had all of that paperwork for when he entered kindergarten in Canada, in Richmond Hill. And then we moved in 2007 to Ethiopia.
Yes, I mean he got like I said, we waited 6 months to get the diagnosis, and it was almost a 10-page. 10-page. I don't think anybody's there. You know, to be honest, you can see it there. Yeah, and
So then why are we speaking?
well, I mean, we're talking to ourselves, to be honest. Like we wait at least 15 minutes. We'll because I don't see anybody, right?
So will this be taped and then people can watch this after?
Yeah, but
yeah,
we couldn't do
Okay.
that. But
All
I'm
right.
just saying.
Sorry to those people out there, which is no one. We apologize, and we're just having a side conversation here.
Okay, so basically, we got the diagnosis, 10-page long. we're not going through all the diagnosis, but of course there is a speech delay. There is what the diagnosis is. Well, at that time it's called PDD-NOS. I don't think they have pervasive development disorder.
Not otherwise
not
specified.
specify where they eliminated that right from the diagnosis now. It's a strict autism, right? It's a mild autism form, autism, but he does show like some some things. It's not totally.
Okay, keep talking.
Yeah, it's basically no. There's nobody here. Look, you can tell here. There's nobody. Right there, it will show you. Like you see that?
Yeah, well, I'm just asking, is there any?
No one there.
out
No
there?
one. No one is there. And I lost my thought.
Okay.
But basically, okay, there's one person. So he, what I was saying, yeah, it was a 10-page diagnosis, right? So they really, a speech therapist, occupational therapist, can you do that, please? Thanks. An occupational therapist, social worker. It's a team of people who actually assess it. It took 3 days. Well, the whole appointment was, we waited, even though in Canada the waiting period is long, even now it's long, because we waited 6 months to get the actual appointment. We went through all the process, like 3 months, like they interviewed us first, then they really looked at Stevie's, the way he played, the way he interacted with toys, the speech, and all that stuff, right? And they did find some things that he have, which is good. When they call his name, he turned around. And most kids on the spectrum, they don't, right? But he have some eye contact, but he doesn't have he doesn't play toys appropriately. He have lack of communication delays and speech delays and a number of things that they put in. So it took like I said 3 appointments, and the finally diagnosed him with autism. Well, right now I think it's the spectrum, it's changed, right? Before there was like mild autism and all that stuff, Asperger and that, right? But they no longer have that, right? They have autism strictly. They took out Asperger. So Stevie diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, and with a speech delay, with sensory issues, a number of other challenges.
Right, yeah. So, again, welcome to people who have joined us.
Yeah.
We've talked briefly about Stevie's birth back in 2002, his entry into kindergarten in Canada, his challenge at a daycare where a teacher gave Yalem the business card for a psychologist, and considered that perhaps Stevie might have autism. And then, as you were just hearing, there was a full battery assessment at the Markham Stouffville Hospital in Canada on Stevie at the age of what, about 3.5?
Yeah, 3.5.
About 3.5 years of age. So then,
well, it's hard. I must say, getting the diagnosis, it's very hard. I'm not gonna say it's easy, but you basically thinking as a parent, wow, okay, what does that mean? You're not getting a response right away, and it means like it could be that you have a future for this child that you want.
Well, and I'm not talking from a mother's point of view, or but
as a parent.
Well, I'm talking from a parent, but I'm just saying it must have crossed your mind, Yalem, that you were like, what happened during the pregnancy? What did I do?
Of course,
what did I
you
eat?
question all that.
Yeah,
you question all that.
But that's natural.
Yeah. Well, you come to terms with it after.
Yes.
But at the initial diagnosis, what I'm saying is like I didn't even think about my pregnancy at first.
Right.
But I'm thinking, what is going to be his future like? Right.
Oh yeah.
Well, you have all these future like you want them to get married, you want them to have going to college, you want them. It's hard.
Which any parent has.
It's like a grieving process, right? Yeah. It's
like
you grieve, right? right there. It's like
Yes.
I think what they did is what I like the way they did it. They gave us the assessment, and they left us in the room for us to digest what's happened, right? And so it was very, and then they come back and they explain everything, right? Everything what it's really very well detailed assessment. That's what you need. That's what from when you get to a diagnosis. I always say I talk about even on Twitter page. I always write, make sure that's the right person who actually you're getting diagnosis from, right? And you want to make sure this is your child, right? So
Yeah, and then like when you are, and this is for any parents that are moving internationally or even locally, and you've been asked for a psychological assessment, as Yelem was saying, make sure the psychologist is reputable.
mhm.
Also, respectfully, investigate the whys to why do you feel, and this all happens at a school support team meeting. Before that, just to let you know, as a teacher, we have what's called an IST, which is an individual student, and that takes place within the school. And the teacher will bring his or her concerns to administration. And then the school support team meeting, that's where the social worker, perhaps a guidance counselor, and the school psychologist will come. And in order for a child to be diagnosed, at least in Canada or Ontario, it's the IPRC. They have to go to what's called an IPRC, an Individual Placement Review Committee, where that diagnosis will be attached to the student. But like we say as parents, and I say this as an educator, that does not define the child.
But one thing I want to stress about is for parents who are actually watching us from Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, it's very difficult to get a proper diagnosis in Addis. I understand that. We tried to get a psychological assessment, even a psychological assessment after Stevie was diagnosed when we were in Addis. We noticed one of the things we noticed, like how people take advantage of these parents, right? Even the person said, I am so qualified, I'm Farangi, or I came from overseas. Please don't take their word for it. They might not be even equipped to get assessment, to do an assessment. What I know that like ask for referral, check, make sure this is actually they know what they're talking about because
Wow.
they in Addis like everybody who came from overseas it's also called I'm a psychologist. It's qualified. Right?
Yeah, well, we were told at the school in Ethiopia that Stevie needed an updated assessment. We were going back to Canada on a yearly basis during the rainy season, during the summer, and we made sure it was a reputable psychologist here in Ontario, in Canada,
Right.
right? And we investigated the psychologist, and there has to be a good relationship, right? Because if it's like the transition for any child, and that they have to develop. So if you parents, if you're feeling that you're rushed, and you know how it is, it's a sales, correlating psychologists to salespeople.
Right.
But if you're feeling rushed or pressured into sign documents, or and if it's not a right fit, then
You have to definitely go because, like I say, in Ethiopia, yes, there are some government places where you get tested. I'd rather you go there, to be honest, and then a private one. Make sure the private one is equipped. I'm not saying there isn't, but I'm just saying find out, get a referral, ask what is their history in terms of assessing kids on the autism spectrum. Find out referral, right? Before you get it's difficult.
Well, because we had the as going back to what we were talking about, we had the initial assessment or diagnosis from the Martin Stouffville Hospital, and then there was a European woman. That's all we're going to say. She's from we don't have to name the country.
10 pages. We had an assessment already.
Yeah. But we had a European woman. And
but in Addis, we needed a psychological assessment.
Right, and so we needed it quick.
Yeah.
right? And it was before summer, the rainy season, so we weren't, so we had to, so there was this person. Anyway, long story short, when her assessment was written up, and you extract and you
Yeah,
tweak
it
it into
wasn't
your
good.
own words, but we were finding it was almost a replica of, there wasn't anything new, right? Like
Right.
she had gone to Stevie's kindergarten class at the school in Ethiopia, and it was like, yeah, but you're not. This is how he was at 3.5. But I mean, come on,
Yeah, he
he like,
changed.
yeah, like what his strengths. He
Yeah.
has to have more strengths. We don't, we want to hear his needs in that.
Yeah.
But so anyway, yeah, be careful and investigate.
Well, what I'm what I'm advising parents is really, if you see your child not progressing in terms of like communication delay, speech delay is the first one that we notice with Stevie, but that doesn't make him doesn't make it like he have autism, right? But make sure if it's, there's a number of things. The speech delay is one of them. How he played with toys inappropriately. How he interact with other kids, right? Does he actually have a conversation with other kids, or does he just isolate himself? And the social cue, I guess.
Oh,
Yeah.
so I think this is a good segue. What did we do? And I will, and we'll both talk about this. But what did we do to support Stevie?
Okay, so the first thing that what we did as a parent when we noticed Stevie's when we received the assessment, like I said, it's a shock at first. Of course, it took us, but we accepted it. This is what you have. This is what you have to do first. Please do not dismiss it. It's not gonna go away. This is your child. This is basically what. Yeah, this is your child. He got a diagnosis. It doesn't change. He's your boy. So but you're ready to help him, right?
What
Just basically um, accept the diagnosis. The first thing.
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
And family member and friends mean well, but there is no cure, right? There is no medicine or, that we know of.
Yeah, we accepted it basically, try to get as much information as possible because the internet can be overwhelming. And there's a lot of stuff that's written on the. Well, we're lucky to have the.
Yeah. Well, we had the doctor come from California, right? And it was interesting because in my office at the school in Ethiopia, he came and obviously he's a professor. And so he came and it was looking at the books. Now, I have read aloud books. I was a guidance counselor there for parents, but he was looking at the resources and I'm not going to throw names out, but I was so happy because we really respected this doctor from Ethiopia that was doing assessments on Stevie and others. But when he looked at the literature that Yelem and I had purchased, right, and he was saying, well, that's a friend of mine. Or, yes, that's very good. That's very good. That's very good. Because, yeah, like what you buy on Amazon or in still don't believe everything, right?
The point is, what did we do? Immediately, we try to understand what is autism. What did he have? So we try to educate ourselves. I even put myself into a school to really understand how do I support them. So I actually got certificate on social skills on autism. I went to school myself here in well, the good thing is there's a lot of resources here. But even now, if you're an artist, definitely educate yourself because online, you can actually take online.
Webinars.
With webinar, but definitely I will put some of the where you can get an online courses while you're an artist. I'll put some of them in the comment section. You can maybe put www.autismnet, what is it, the Geneva Center, autism.net. Yeah. That is an organization that actually you could do an online course. Some of them are free, right? .net. You can actually, so that's what we did. The first thing, educate, trying to understand your child, right? How can you support them if you don't know anything about it, right?
Well, we were just looking today, and it was interesting because we were looking, and we're all, Yelem, I must say, she's always trying to update herself, and the literature, you have to make sure it's up to date.
These kids surprise you. What works today? So basically, we educate ourselves at the beginning. And then we definitely put them immediately. They recommend it. We live in Canada, so the resources It really, compared to Ethiopia, I mean, it's very good. But still, even here, it's limited. So we put him into a speech therapist. He actually got speech therapy for 2.5 years at the beginning. And then early intervention. The earlier, the better. The earlier, the better. Work on your child early, right?
So there's speech and language.
Yeah.
There was OT. What's OT?
Occupational therapist, because Stevie has a number of challenges with his fine motor, gross motor skills, and the biggest one is fine motor. Also sensory issue. He have difficulty with noise. He get distracted very easily if you hear a bit of noise, even a slide of like a car, like chairs moving.
Okay, now so I have a question for you. I know the answer, but it would be good. So we travel to and from in a 16-hour flight from Addis Ababa to Toronto and back.
Yes.
How did we support Stevie and all those changes?
Difficult. So, but we were prepared. Anywhere you go with your child, prepare. So what we did is actually we have a letter written from a doctor saying he have a sensory issue. So can he board early? So we have him board early, even before anybody, even before children. So he's comfortable. He doesn't like being in a narrow lane with everybody getting up at the same time. That's the noise, the aisle, the noise. So high noise cancellation. Well, it's very difficult for everybody to get noise cancellation, right? But you get
even earplugs
earplugs. Yeah. Well, noise cancellation or headset with music is better. Have your child and bring along, like, you know what, you'll be surprised, kids on the spectrum, they might not eat in the plane because they might not like the food that they have there, but it doesn't matter. It's okay. That bring sweets, chocolate. That's what I learned in the first trip. Bring additional snacks.
But what happened to Stevie? How did this come to evolution? Do you want to tell the viewers what happened? Because remember, we weren't fully prepared.
We weren't we weren't fully prepared. And what happened in our first flight to Addis, Stevie refused to eat, period. Why? Because his first experience in a plane, we weren't prepared. In a narrow aisle, very small chairs, noise from the plane, no headset. We didn't have a headset. I don't know if we had a headset that time. And
we had nothing else other than the food of Lufthansa or British, whatever the airline was.
We weren't prepared. So, but when he arrived at Addis, he basically lethargic, very tired, and he doesn't want to go to the washroom. That's another issue. Period. He doesn't want even the air.
He thought he was going to be sucked out into the air.
The crews tried to help. Nothing. What we learned from that experience, in fact, he got admitted in the hospital in Addis, basically from dehydration, right? So that experience taught us, okay, you're gonna go through these challenges with your kid. I'm not saying this is your experience, but this is our experience. You will learn as you go along what works, what doesn't work. Okay, so for next trip, after that, we'll prepare. We had him board early. We had our
we can even say for any child, because the air pressure in that, and then like chewing gum. Okay, well that was good. Also, we were looking for lollipops, right?
Yeah,
and then the sucking sensory, the sensory.
Lollipops. You can actually do that, and that is really you go through that, and you learn as you you start your journey with your child. You will say, oh, you know what, this works and that works, right? It's like you will basically grow together, and you'll say, oh my God, okay, this didn't work, why I'm doing it, right? So
yes, Barakat, educate yourself. Thank you.
Educate yourself with Barakat. Thank you for joining us. Definitely educate yourself as much as possible. That's what we did for the last 20 years. He's 20 now. We are learning every day. It's surprising. Every day what works.
There's no manual for any parent, right?
No, there's no manual.
Right? And there's no cure-all for the mainstream or
and
kids with exceptional
cannot stress this is not. Do not compare your child with other children on the spectrum.
Or siblings.
Any sibling.
Well, and we know of parents that have 2 children or young adults now under the spectrum of autism.
Yeah.
I teach across the hall. There's Stephen and there's Simon. And
Yeah.
these boys are twins. Very different. Very different. So I'm just piggybacking on what you were saying to yeah.
Right, definitely. That's what's called a spectrum, right? Do not compare each child, and also differentiate what is autism, what is not really, because these are boys and girls, right? I will tell you a story. Once, an artist, I went. Every time I go there, they tell me Stevie did this because of his autism. Stevie did that because of his autism, right? Then one day I say to the teacher, have you thought about maybe he's a boy? And he's like, it is a boy's character. It's nothing to do with his autism. He's just a boy. And he thanked me, right, for that. He thanked me. He said, oh my God, Yalem, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, he's just a boy, right? So people have difficulty differentiate, even us, right? Is it because of his autism or just being naughty, just being a boy?
See, so you can be
Yeah.
Debravatvat mainstream or Debravatvat autism, Debravatvat period, right?
Differentiate, right? And educate everybody. I'm talking about educate everybody that your child is interact with him like a family member, grandparents, wherever he's going. Educate them, right? Educate and
Well,
everything. If you have a like I'm
well,
saying,
and that's why for Stevie, he's not a child. Like he has different sensory, where it's never really been hard for us to have him get his hair cut. But once you find a good hairstylist or a barber, then that's the one to keep. Now, we are always forward thinking, right? Because our dentist is amazing now, but we're all getting a little older. And so our dentist, he's getting a little gray in the tooth. With all due respect to him, but we're just thinking, right? Anything could happen, and what's Plan B? So
Yeah.
forward thinking.
Okay, so to come back at what we did, beside the speech therapies, there is occupational therapies. As a must, all these three they have to go together. Like you, definitely therapy is important. Early intervention is the key. The earlier you start working with your child, you see the result, right? I cannot stress enough. I wish somebody else would tell me when Stevie was diagnosed to teach Stevie early self-help or help life skills. Start early, right?
Yeah, and then okay, in Canada, the United States, Europe, or wherever, so they have the programs for they have what's called Out and About here for young adults that Stevie goes to. He had Swim and Explore, all of these. But what about in Ethiopia? Well, so what did we do in Ethiopia? And it's not about us, because we did have a strong support system.
Like Barakat said, educate yourself. In Addis or in Ethiopia, you're the parent, the advocate for your child. Unfortunately, there's a lot of autism organizations that I see. I'm not gonna name here, but they're there to make money. Sorry, but I did visit all of them, and what I noticed is they're actually taking money from people, and they don't have. You're the advocate. You're the one who's gonna in Ethiopia until we have a proper support system. Hopefully, we do get it through the Minister of Health and all that. You're going to teach how to dress. You're going to teach how to, writing. Well, I wouldn't even focus whether your child writes or read or not. I would focus if you have your child on the spectrum, make sure you teach life skill ahead of time. Bathing, taking a shower, combing your hair, dressing, making your bed, all these skills, I cannot stress that. Teach them ahead of time. Because they're going to learn eventually at school, whatever, start reading. But what they struggle with, like tying your shoes, simple things, road safety, all these skills you gotta work on. We worked for a number of years. Stevie still struggle and some of these challenges, right?
Yeah, American has a good. I got a good headset, but I don't know how to apply for my child. I want to know how a headset will help his son.
Headset?
Yeah. So I think
So,
noise reduction and.
Very good question. So the way we use headset, right? Let's say you're taking your child to nowadays it's a very crowded place. Crowded, that's when you get a lot of stress and meltdown happens. If you have a good set, let's say they don't want to go to grocery stores if they have a meltdown and they have a bad experience. What is a bad experience for them? Noise, fluorescent light, crowded place, people talking at the same time. All this create a lot of sensory issues,
Yeah, so beyond that,
right?
also, we not so much because it's not an aversion to bright lights, but there are, he might have to, or a child under the spectrum might have to wear sunglasses.
Yeah, you don't think that they will be overwhelmed with all these things,
Right.
but they might cope at this. Let's say you're taking him to a grocery store with crowded place.
Mm.
He's holding all his sensory issue at that moment, right? But you don't know. He might have a major meltdown when you take him to a birthday party,
Mm.
right in front of other people. You know what I'm saying? So headset will help to reduce all that anxiety, like
Well,
especially.
and then
You
also
know?
make sure, Betiket or anyone else, a great question, is that you're monitoring because Stevie, like Mozart and calm music is great, but then
Yeah.
and Stevie, he's slippery, right? So then
Well,
all of
he's
a
a
sudden we
kid.
can hear boom, 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 boom,
Well,
and it's
as they
becoming a
get older,
distraction. Well,
like,
they know what will work.
But what for children, like I said, if then that experience, him wearing your child's bracket, I'm taking as just I guess using him as an example, wearing a headset, it makes the trip to the grocery store calming.
Calming.
Then
Well,
next time he will go no problem because that experience, because these kids they recorded it whether they have a meltdown
well,
in one place.
and you know what? There's the pressure against the ears, and then also a weighted vest, right? And like Barakat, not to get off the topic of headset, but I think you have to look at all avenues, and you also have to look at the clothing that they're wearing,
Yeah,
right?
the main
It's for
point is
nonverbal as well.
yeah, the main point is you want that experience to be pleasant
Right.
because what happens is once, for example, we'll give you a good example. Stevie have like these kids have imagination. So he had a major meltdown once in a restaurant because he saw a picture when he was like 3. He saw a picture, a scary picture, and then that was like 3 years old. He wouldn't go to that restaurant um, for many years, many years. They have that, so you don't want that to happen. You want a pleasant going to visit to birthday party. Birthday party can be very, what is it? Very
Overwhelming.
overwhelming, too much sensory issues, right? You have to pick and choose where you're taking your kids, right?
Mm.
Well, whether is this like a birthday party that appropriate for your child? But if you have a headset, definitely use it to go to grocery store, right? That's one of the places that kids get meltdown.
Yeah, but what are like, and I'm asking Yalem this. What about like a parent says, okay, but I don't want my child to have learned helplessness to get what where they have like a computer junkie, then my child might become a headphone junkie where
I understand that.
because I do like
It's not about you.
yeah
really.
no
Yeah,
I know it's not about me, but they were talking about transitioning to adulthood.
true.
Right. Okay. So right, because for assemblies at the school that we were at in Ethiopia, Stevie used to wear
Yeah.
a headset.
Yeah.
But then it gets to a point where when he's in grade 3 or 4, which is about 8 or 9 years of age, it's not cool.
Right.
So then what do you do to transition? That's kind of like to transition.
Yeah, slowly. Like you
Right.
work with, for example, you might want to transition him very slowly. Let's say, take him to grocery store maybe 5 minutes, right? Show him some pleasant thing that he can get while he goes to grocery, and so he will adapt the noise, right? It's not okay. Let me go back. The pleasant situation you created for him when he wears his headset, right? That's already recorded in his head. So going to grocery without the headset might not be bad after. It's not a scary place. The initial visit to the grocery store, you don't want him to be traumatized with all that noise. But once he had that headset a couple of times, and going to grocery store, he can see what he can get. Make it like a fun, right? Or you're helping daddy, right? You're picking this up, that up, and he can get sweet, right? And then after a while, because you already have pleasant experience wearing a headset, he might not even need a headset. As you get older, you say, that's what happened with Stevie. He doesn't want to wear the headset anymore because he's getting used to the place. make him comfortable with what places here he's going to, right?
Yeah, because I think we both worked at the school and that Stevie attended in Addis Ababa, and after a while, like he was like, no, I don't want, and it was like, okay,
I don't
that's
want it. Yeah.
yeah, no, that was
Yeah,
great,
you know,
right?
they will grow. I
Yeah,
mean, they will change, right? So basically, grocery store, going to grocery store, no, it's not bad after all.
mm,
But I really, you make sure have him wearing a headset for initial visit to grocery store. You want to create that pleasant situation for him. And then once he goes to grocery store, oh, okay, this is not bad at all. It's not frightening situation. That's what you
yeah,
want to
and
do.
always, acknowledge to the child, like don't think that, okay, up here as parents we're like, oh, he did well. We say that privately,
Yeah,
but
reinforcement,
well,
reinforcement.
reinforcement, but the child also needs to be congratulated and say,
Exactly,
hey, this is
exactly.
your, yeah, right, and the transition into adulthood. Lowell was
Yeah.
asking about transitioning to adulthood, right?
That is the biggest one. So basically, that is exactly what we're going through right now. It's a number of things that here in Canada we're going through a number of things because another milestone, right? Prepare your child. Is he ready for adulthood? Really, to be independent. You want to make sure he's independent. He can't be dependent all the time, right? So we work right now with him, cooking, cleaning. I'm saying the basic ones, right? And self-sufficient banking. Make sure you open a bank account. I cannot start with, it's a hard subject, but make sure, think about the future. If something happened to you, where he's going to live, right? You want to prepare him that now, early, before he transitioned to adulthood. So you have to put that in paper. Is there anybody else? In Ethiopia, it's difficult. So you have to find somebody reliable that you want him to look out. Can he live by himself? No. Who can he live with? All these questions you have to answer.
So you have
I
to
mean,
almost
really,
think 5, or they're saying 10 years ahead. Where do you see your child,
where
right?
do you see a child? So that's why you need to work early for independent. Independent. You want him to take a subway, by himself, or a bus, or
Well,
totally not dependent on
yeah.
anybody.
Well, it was we were chuckling, but in a respectful way. We were driving Stevie to his summer program, and there's a very high functioning young man who was walking on his own, right?
Yeah.
Very high. Like some people were just saying, does he work at the camp, right?
Well, look at
And
it.
then it was interesting because his mother had a motorcycle or a little,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
she was driving behind just to make sure,
yeah.
right? But you could tell that's what she was doing, right?
Very good question. It's actually a question that we actually working on right now. We had here in Canada, I'll tell you, the government is, once the child transition to approaching to adult, which is like Steve is going to be next year, they will give you a coordinator that will work with you to answer all these questions, like where do you want the child to be, what we should work on right now after school, after he finish high school, where what do you want them to do, right? Work on his the goal you set for your child. Definitely work, set a goal. um, Sit down as a couple. You need to work with a group, as a couple, or if you're a single mother, also work with somebody else to come up with a goal for him, right? To transition to adulthood. These are, like I said, financially independent. Like, really, can he take care of himself? Some kids might not be independent.
Well,
These are
yeah, and I
that's
and
it,
I think
right?
at least for Stevie, but other parents who have children under the spectrum, is don't shortchange your child. I mean, the best thing
Yes,
for Stevie was his integration into an international school where he could see and hear, because you want kids in the mainstream to act as modeling, right? I
right.
mean, because we as parents, and he's an only child, so he doesn't have a brother or sister to model from. So that's always been a benefit, and we're always looking. Like there's a program that Stevie has called Best Buddies,
Right.
where, and even if it's not working well, and I give Yalem credit this, right, because there were some students that were on there, and this was online,
Yeah.
and it was like, there was nothing really going on, and then you know how well Stevie is with music, And so how did that come to fruition? Because you basically were getting him to do music trivia with the high school students.
You mean, yeah, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. So these kids have many talents. Even this, please, I cannot stress non-verbal kids. Do not like think it's because the child is not speaking that doesn't have a talent. They're extremely talented. You just have to find to communicate with them, which is like PACs, visuals, sign languages.
Well,
You can actually do
well,
sign
well, well, well.
languages.
That's
Yeah,
it. At our
yeah,
because we had a nonverbal child in our support group in Addis Ababa at the school, and the two of us, mainly me as the teacher, I was organizing games and trying to look for a variety. And the parent came to me and said, what about sign language? And
sign
that put me in a position. I was like, yeah.
sign language. Yeah,
It's here we have what's called Bob Rumble School for the Deaf, and that. So that's just really these skills to know sign language and to have signals.
yeah. Basically, with kids on the non-verbal kids, you see a lot of frustration and anger meltdown. The reason is because their inability to communicate with you, right? So they get frustrated because we don't understand them. So you have to create a situation where you can be able to communicate with your child. So I know the mom. Uh, I know personally, she basically amazing. She created one room just for her son. She created a situation where he can be able to communicate. Like everywhere is a visual. Everywhere is like on the. So he's forced to ask. Let's say if I want water, he goes and pick up the water sign or he give it to his mom, and his need is met at the same time she find a way to communicate with him, right? So visuals everywhere. Don't just give it to him when he asks if he's not communicated. So you have to make sure you find a way to communicate with each other, whether it's a sign language, picture or
Yeah.
visuals or everything, right?
Well, and then I do want to emphasize, we want to emphasize that the transition to adulthood, because where do you see your child 5 to 10 years?
Right.
Living independently in that.
Yeah.
There will be so-called experts or other people who mean well, could be family members or people at school who will let things go because, Johnny, Mary,
Yeah,
they
that
have
bugs
autism.
me. Yeah.
No, I mean, you want your son or daughter to thrive in the outside world,
Yeah.
and please, right? You say it respectfully in that, no, I want to know the full truth. There's no sugarcoating in terms
That
of.
happened in Ethiopia a lot. Please leave him alone. It's okay. And you set a program for your child. You want to stick to it, right? You want everybody to follow that because just because the child is on the spectrum, they let him get away with being rude or being like, oh, he's okay. Or no. Do you? I always say, do you do that with your other child? No. I don't want this for my child. So if you want to teach your child something and you have a set goal, make sure that everybody followed it, right?
Well,
You know?
yeah, we have to be cognizant of that with Stevie. I mean, you have to anywhere, but I mean,
Yeah.
Stevie, you see him live and you think, wow,
Yeah.
yeah, like he's got charisma, he's got this and that, and he's got a great knowledge in that. But Stevie has issues with social skills, and he's asked some very inappropriate questions.
Many times.
And he knows. He knows. So that's attention seeking.
Attention seeking. They do
Kids
that.
under the mainstream.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
and then because private parts, and he was asking, and he's curious, right? So as he's approaching into adulthood,
Yeah.
so he did say something, and the young woman about her private parts, and the young woman said, no, it's okay, and then we said, no, we said the woman's name, no, it's not okay.
Right.
So I sat down man to man with Stevie, and I'm just saying, like, I mean, and it was funny because, well, he said, I can run, right? Because I said, you know what? This young woman, they have family members, right? And no one wants to hear you, who's taller than me, like you're 6 foot,
Yeah.
you have aphasia hair, how is your so-and-so doing? The
Yeah.
private part and that. And he says, well, I can run if they chase me.
You know what? A good point you mentioned because I remember an early, I guess the therapist who were working with Stevie. Never forget what she said to me. As 3 years old, Stevie was doing some inappropriate thing, and everybody, ha ha, they're laughing. She said, okay, he's cute now, he's 3, but imagine if he's doing that at 16, right? He get kicked
Well,
by somebody. Like what I'm
it-
saying is, teach appropriate
Well,
behavior early.
and okay, DJ Stevie now, right? Okay, he's great with all of these dates. You hear him, right? I'm
Yeah.
sitting in this chair. Stevie said, "Here, what's the release date?" Boom. He
Yeah.
says the release date. It's appropriate. What was funny, and he did this, and he got free ice cream and desserts and that at this restaurant close to where we were staying. We frequented. The cook, oh, he's so cute, and muna yun konjo, and baby, and all the rest of this. That was cute then. But
Not
now he's 20, he's a young man, and so when the waitress comes and he'll say, "What's your name?" Right? Inappropriate. What's your name? As she just wants to take the order. When's your birthday?
So
Well,
what is
I mean,
really-
that's not something you ask the waitress, right?
Yeah, so teach appropriate behavior. It goes with age. Like you don't want to teach your 16 years old child a 3 years old uh, skills, right? Teach it when he was 3. What I'm saying is just because the child is on the spectrum, that doesn't mean that you're not teaching appropriate behavior. Table manner, right? You have to teach everything. The issue is not issue, but the challenge is with our kids. If you teach a skill in one place, for example, you're teaching him, okay, table manner, how to eat with fork. He might not repeat it somewhere else. That skill has to be taught again and again, right? Many places, because what they call a generalization. They don't have that in our kids because most kids.
Theory of mind.
Yeah, generalizing a skill.
Right.
Right. So let's say if I taught you how to eat with fork, you'll do it another place. But our kids have difficulty with that. Like they cannot
Transfer.
transfer that skill
Right.
somewhere else. So you have to teach it everywhere. Let's say you teach it at home. When he goes to grandma's house, he has to learn. Somebody has to teach him as well. So don't let them say, "Oh, don't worry about it. He's at grandma's house." No, I want them to learn that way, right? And he goes to birthday party. Make sure he follows the rule, right? Even if you have a visual, bring that visual with him. Point. Okay, you have to eat with fork, right? Or if you have to teach him washing his hand, right? One place you gotta repeat that skill everywhere else. Not grocery, restaurant, going out, and places like that. You have to repeat that skill because it doesn't come natural for them. That's one thing you have to know. A skill has to be taught in different places.
And broken down into it's
Right.
like any skill that
And
you
many
teach.
skills. So
So
don't let people to tell you what to, like what I'm saying is, oh, I get through that a lot when I was an artist. Oh, it's okay, let them get it. No, you want to stick to that program. So age appropriate. Make sure you teach for whatever you're teaching other kids.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
there's a challenging student that I had for 2 years who has ADHD. Okay, so now he's next door with another teacher. He has the headset on all the time. Well, he's quiet.
Yeah.
Is he doing his work? Teacher says not always.
Yeah.
I said to the teacher, okay, what's easy for you now will come back to bite you because, right, there's going to be the meltdowns. He is expecting, it's got to be consistent, right? It has to be.
Yeah, like when I say age appropriate for your kids, you don't want your 7 years old bare naked in front of everybody, right? What I'm saying is like that's not age appropriate. You gotta teach age appropriate things. So you basically sit down your child and it's like, no, even with picture, no, this is not a good behavior. This is Johnny. This is a good behavior. You have to dress your clothes, right? You know what I'm saying? It's like I have to be blunt because that's what it is. You make sure you teach your kids age appropriate stuff, right? Just because they're special need kids or kids on the spectrum, I don't let them get away with stuff, right? And you have to teach it. Unfortunately, as a parent, you have to be the advocate, right?
Yeah. No, it's true. You have to be the strongest advocate. Well, we're approaching like almost a full hour.
Let me open it for questions.
Yeah, well, if you have any questions, but like I just wanted to talk about the evolution of DJ Stevie and how he came to be. I think the greatest gift you can give a child is the opportunity to succeed
Yeah.
and the opportunity to fail.
Right.
Okay, so this is where, you know, signing them up into programs, and if programs don't exist, create a program. I mean,
Yes.
this is what we did
That's what we did with Stevie.
in
Great. Yeah.
right, team building activities, and so on, or find out, and you know, because we found out that Stevie is not into athletics, right? I mean, I'm a runner. Thankfully, he's following that lead, but for soccer or any sport with
Yeah.
coordination, no,
It's
he,
difficult.
it's yeah,
But find their strengths. Like
fun,
they all have it, and they all have it, and nurture that.
and foster and
Foster
nurture,
and nurture that because,
right?
um, uh, you know, these kids they surprise you. To
Yeah.
to
Well, he had a negative experience, and we did as parents when we first got him into piano. And the piano teacher, it wasn't Stevie, but she was very regimented. It was almost Gestapo like teaching or whatever. But we did not dissuade Stevie, but we thought, yeah, this kid is interested in music, right? So, but we really saw that as well when they would play music at his summer camp, and he was acting as an assistant DJ, and he knows everything, right? I picked him up, and I was like, well, yeah, he knows everything. So during COVID, I would do read alouds online, and Stevie was my wingman at that point, right? So that was where the video age started. And then he had weekly Saturday night requests
yeah.
where he would play music. And then it was Yalem's idea, why don't we put this onto a YouTube channel?
Yeah.
So we started off very grassroots, very slow, without proper mics and all that. If you watch the earlier videos, you'll see us all scrunched up.
We're learning as we go along. I mean, the idea is to empower him, right? To empower other kids as well. As what I was gonna say is like, you have to create an opportunity for your child. Well, it's going to be. I'm not gonna say this. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. But unfortunately, being a child, a parent who's a child on the spectrum, can be a lonely place, right? Even this is the honest truth. Like some people, many people don't want to have anything to do with autism, and you are the parent, the advocate for your child. Like, look at what you can do, right?
Well, by you sitting here listening to us is a major step, and you know what? You're sifting through like I don't know about Derek and Yalem and all the rest, right? I'm just saying, right? Like we're just watching because there's good, bad, right? Okay, so it is not unique to repeatedly teach a new thing. That's great. We need to create conducive environments, excellent, to release their potential. Yes, the environment is and knowing, understanding their skills is a key point.
I will tell you, you will give, when you go through this process, let's say you wanted to create a unique opportunity, a learning environment for your child, you will be rejected. I'm telling you. I'm not saying like, I'm talking about even so-called very even here in Canada, but you say that they should know better, whether an artist or something. Most people think that they look at the kids under the spectrum and say, oh, they can't, I don't want to deal with all his sensory issue, right? I don't want to deal with his additional challenge, even teachers, right? But I cannot stress enough, you be the advocate. And you have to prove to,
And Yalem, I mean, okay, we would be getting up in the morning, right? And the mamita, I don't want to even use the word mamita, but an Addis. And we had a rubber ball, and Yalem had trained her how to meet Stevie's sensory needs. So all of that was previewing and prepping him to be getting ready for the car ride in the Hilux to the school in Addis. At one point he was touching a lot of people, so we had him holding on to this ball.
Well, right? you go well, your child
trial and error.
Yeah. But they go through different challenges, right? And the reason is sometimes they have because they lack, a lot of people don't give them attention, so sometimes they create attention by doing negative things, right? if that makes sense. So unfortunately, that you go through that, right? And you don't want, you want to reduce the negative and bring the positive, I guess.
Well, and
So
praise and recognition. This is a great question. Does cultural differences affect autism? I mean,
oh, big
transition
time,
from Ethiopia to Canada.
big time. Where like well, okay, there are good things in Ethiopia, and there's also our culture, right? The idea of in Ethiopia, what I
Your
notice is
culture
like
is no good.
no. I'm not saying. I guess what they call ignorance is a bliss.
Yeah.
A lot of people in Ethiopia don't look at his Stevie's autism as much as
Which could be a good thing.
which could be a good thing. That's what I notice in Ethiopia. They think like, oh, what are you talking about? Or like they don't really, not a major issue, but they also dismiss inappropriate behavior.
Okay,
Right?
but you know, I would be in the office at our house, doing my work for the school, and I would have the window open, and he learned Amharic, and I was like, wow, and that was so good. Like you just
Yeah, that's why I
see,
say there's
I
good
know,
things.
but yeah, like even like kids under the mainstream, and that if you're not giving them that social relation, and with all of COVID-19 or whatever, we see a lot of suffering in that, and this transition now back
You
into
can teach
relating.
people. What I notice in Ethiopia is you really can teach uh, them to be aware of your child, I guess, diagnosis, and you can actually create a safe environment for him, right? But you gotta educate yourself. And there's a lot of people. One of the places that I find that really is at Saba University, the special need department. When the school, I guess Stevie was, they asked us to get a one-to-one support because he does need a one-to-one support. The first place I went is at Saba University, the special need department, the psychological department. Most kids there, they're willing to learn that, but they have a psychology background, but they don't know a lot about autism, right? If you want a person to work with your child, you can actually get somebody from there. I actually, we actually got,
Yeah, but
we
we
had,
did, but we
we
did.
had,
But getting back to what we talked about earlier,
yeah,
right?
culture.
Yeah, with the cultural differences and that, and we would meet on a weekly basis, and we would have them write a report,
Teach
and it
them,
was
yeah,
the antecedent, or sorry, the ABC chart, right? So the antecedent, A, B, the behavior, and what is the consequence.
yeah,
And so we had some challenges with the support person in that, not like,
yes.
because you know you have to be quite
That's
frank.
what he's talking about.
That's right.
The
We
culture.
know the child
You
best.
have to teach it, and here there's good side and bad side also here. Here it's like it's really because there's that stigma. The diagnosis have a stigma attached to it. Okay, so basically that's also the down part, right? I mean, it's everybody's aware here. Like the government has put programming. There's a lot of support, but at the same time, there's that stigma, right?
Well,
You
and
know what I
there's
mean?
even a more stigma of the ISP, the Intensive Support Program,
Right.
right? So that's what the autism classes are called now,
Yeah.
or the DD. You know, and there are all these labels or what, which
The labeling.
yeah, the
Labeling,
labeling,
and the
and
kids.
then you know what is needed is the integration, and it's a win-win situation done in the right way. Done in the right way, right? Because my grade 4 class is now connected with students like Stevie, and we're having the reading buddies, but done in the right way.
The whole program, whether it's in Canada or somewhere else, is just set up to have these kids to be dependent. That is the part I don't like. Everywhere they have, for example, here, um, uh, the child's turn. Immediately, you have to apply for this support program, right? Support means the uh, pension. They already had them. They cut them out, like saying they will not be successful. So we have to have that mentality change. Really, like I can help my child to be successful somewhere. It might be it's a lot of let's don't give up. What I'm saying is when you're teaching a skill, for example, tying your shoes. I'll tell you a story. I started teaching Stevie how to tie shoes since he was age 3. I'm serious. I was with visuals and all that stuff. he wasn't successful at all. He
Yeah.
basically,
Yeah, but you see, we did go and buy Velcro shoes for him, right? Because it was age appropriate, at least back for little kids. But there gets to a time, right? And it came quick where, like, yeah, you're
no,
not an adult buying
you give up, right? I gave
trying.
up. I'll be honest with you. And then when he was here, I think at the age of 17, there was a therapist who was working with him, and she said, "How come he's not tying his shoes? He's 60." She said, "I gave up." I say to her, like, you know what? Maybe he's ready now. You don't know when the child is ready, so don't give up. So basically, within a week, he learned how to tie his shoes. Right? This whole time he was ready. Well, we tried. Like some skill might take you like a long time. I'm just saying, don't give up to teach.
But be open-minded to find other approaches.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Right.
What
And
works, what might not work,
he,
and some
he,
change it.
right, and I think it was mentioned in one of the comments in that is, and you've said this before, it's not for us to enter their world. I mean, we do,
Oh yeah,
but for them to enter our world,
right.
you have to find out what is his learning style, right?
It's
And
like
I think as any good educator,
find the learning
there's a
style
learning
as a kid.
style. How does, and what is the carrot? Like, what are they interested in? And that's where these social stories come in, and the PECs, the picture exchange.
Learning style is a key.
Right.
Some are visual learners, some auditory. For example, Stevie has a very good auditory. He is good visual learner at the same time auditory, right? But some kids, they just have they want visual. Some kids, they want to touch it. They're basically tactile.
Yes.
They want to feel. So you want to present them with so many things. That's where therapy comes in. Well, occupational therapists will start, if you go through the occupational therapist, they will assess the child, and they have what they call sensory diet. It's not food, but it's basically what does a child sense like? How do you can be successful through the sensory, because they look at, say, okay, he's a visual learner, he have difficulty with auditory and all that. So they will set up a program for you, and then okay, if I use then visual, I'll be successful. So things like that.
But it's sticking to that program at home and making sure, like,
definitely.
if someone you've hired someone or whatever.
Yeah.
There's that
I think you can find
saying it takes a village to raise a child, right? So we're part of Team Stevie in that.
Definitely, but you do need speech therapy. Definitely, you will. I'm not sure an artist. I mean, you definitely, somebody can comment and say where the speech therapists are in artists, and also OTs, occupational therapists. That once you have them assessed by an OT, you just work yourself at home, right? They'll set up a program for you, and then
and if you have connections, I mean, and if the wherewithal to travel to Europe or Canada,
or
Kenya and Joburg and Johannesburg and South. I mean, this was around the time when we were there. So, like, if you have the financial wherewithal and
Kenya would be good. Kenya have a very good autism program.
Nairobi. Yeah.
Nairobi, well, not everybody can travel Nairobi, but an artist, I'm not sure. Like, if you can find somebody who can do an assessment for you, an OT, and find out exactly. Some kids might not need the sensory. They might not have a sensory, but majority of kids on the spectrum, it's tied.
Well, and that doesn't go away, because, I mean, Stevie's had this sensory where he needs deep pressure from when he's a young child.
Yeah.
And even now in that, like, to massage his temple and Yalem, she's purchased this string. It looks like a claw, and that, and he'll, and it's to get the verbalization of when Stevie needs this. And again, if your child is nonverbal, is then again through sign language. Anyway,
I just want to say something about that, the sensory. Actually, I work with Stevie because of his sensory issue and Addis. We used to do a lot of massages. Well, it's very easy. Once if you find out like good massage therapist, I used to deep pressure. He does need a deep pressure. Not everybody. Some kids who have sensory difficulty, they like touch. So his Stevie's like that. He likes to be touched. He likes to be hugged. and you can actually implement some massages, and it seems to relax him. And also what is it, music therapy, listening therapy, and I used to do that with him. And a number of things you can do actually, like other
Yeah, because
sensory
you used to
exercises.
have the hand, and then it was almost every
Right.
finger. You used to like, and
Yeah.
viewers, I was working at the school, but who trained me? What was Yalem? And Yalem, if you've joined us after that, when we were traveling back to Toronto, she was taking courses in that. So that just goes to show
That's what I'm
you,
saying.
yeah, you
Sensory.
really have to be your child or children's main advocate in that. But we're getting a lot of
Yeah, yeah. A lot of I want to say is,
okay, okay.
sorry, interrupt you, but
What you did?
I cannot stress it up that for you to have it a sensory, an occupational therapy assessment, because every child is different. Some kids don't want to be hugged at all. They don't want to be touched,
Well,
right? You need to know exactly what
well,
sensory issue
I
that
mean,
your
I'm not
child
going to
has.
compare Stevie to a pair of shoes, but I'm a runner as well, and I was getting all these knee pains, and I was getting, or my late mother, she was having all these problems with her feet. Why? Because you're not wearing a right pair of shoes, right?
Yeah.
So it has to be the right fit.
Individualized program. That's
Yes,
why they call it IP, right?
and the Potter's table here, it's great. You know, conducive environment. The environment is so important.
Right.
But yeah, so this is wonderful, Yilam, isn't it? I mean,
Very happy that you all tune in, and it's our first time. So next time, definitely we'll have more, especially on the therapy part of it, like
and please feel free
suggestion.
yeah,
What they,
because we're adding resources for Stevie's mashup. What do you call it? Musical mashup,
yeah.
right? And then the reactions are on Friday or Saturday in that. Like if you, and we'll try to do this on a monthly basis.
With questions they have.
Yeah, so if you have questions,
what do you like to talk about
I
next
mean,
time?
yeah, we want to know what you want to listen to in terms of Stevie singing and for our
Or
reaction.
how often do you want us to do these? If you can put
Yeah,
in
but
the
we're not
comment
gonna.
section, like
Yeah.
the autism session.
Yeah, but I can see that on a
Let
on
them,
a monthly
let
basis.
them.
What
So
was?
I'm just saying, if you can put it on the comment section, what you would like us to discuss next time.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that if you don't think of it now, often you leave an interview. I should have said this,
Definitely.
but please feel free to jot it down and add comments to Stevie's DJ channel.
Yeah, I want to say something.
All right, I'm gonna be like Stevie, and I'm just gonna
No,
get going.
no. I just want to say something. I'll put some, like I said, places where you can get courses online for new parents to educate yourself and prepare yourself, and also anything that's sensory related. If your child is definitely, I just want to summarize it. Definitely have your child assessed by OT and a speech therapist if you can find it, and individualized plan. And the, like you say, somebody else has mentioned that the atmosphere has to be right, positive environment, nurture environment, educate everybody that's around them.
But then also transition into adulthood is getting them used to the outside world, right? So,
right,
but knowing where a calming place is in Toto was very calming and it was interesting because there are two places where Stevie, is the flapping emotion, and that's and he does that. You see that when we're he's singing and we do our musical reactions in that. But when we're up in Toto,
totally different.
Yeah, it's just, and the other equivalent place was my cousin owns a sailboat, and when Stevie's out sailing with him, so what does that show you? It just shows you that how the environment, right? If we could have our place based in Ankobar, that would be great. You guys are awesome. Thank you for sharing your experience. Blessings. Okay.
Thank you guys, and definitely we'll do this again. It's just like I say, this is the first time we've done it. We didn't know how many people will show up actually, and we were willing to share our experiences, and the goal is to have these kids independent, and they have all skills, and you can nurture it. That's basically the point.
So I'm Derek, DJ Stevie's. Welcome to DJ Stevie's channel, and this is my mom, Yalan. Anyway, well, thank you so much, and bata mama sa ganalo.
Take care, guys.
Anything in Amharic or in
But the next time I will try to do Bamarinya, even session Bamarinya, like for parents who wants this done in Amarinya. We'll do it together. Like I said, it's a learning experience for all of us. We go through it. What works, what it didn't work. Like I said, work on your child in independent environment, sensory.
As the music starts to come in and that. So
Okay,
thank you, and we'll see you again.
Bye, guys.
Ciao.
Take care.